another fresh, popping out the oven episode of Tech Talk Tuesday. I'm Matt Ray, joined as always with Neil Tardy. How you doing, Neil?
I am great. I always appreciate your intros and how they are always different and always catch me off guard.
You're welcome. You didn't know that we were popping fresh, did you? Like the Pillsbury. I am kind of like.
I didn't know I was in the oven, so
you are. Yeah, that's how hot you are, Neil. You are fresh out the oven. I, however, am a little undercooked. Might need to go back in, possibly microwave.
Okay, I see.
So thanks for joining us. We always try to round up the latest in tech news and give you digestible little baby like Gerber spoonfuls, like open wide. And the airplane is coming in, and our first airplane is with Neil. Neil, talk to us about Facebook.
We're back to Facebook. It feels like we're going to be talking about this for a while, particularly while the FTC is still kind of bringing forward their lawsuit. But more information is coming out with this lawsuit, one of which is that Facebook has allegedly basically tried to make a deal with the FTC and regulators saying like, hey, we'll license out our code and things and like an API that other companies can come in. That way it's not as like anti-competitive. And again, this just like kind of admits to me that like they knew that they were doing things wrong. I'm glad that the FTC actually declined the offer in filing the complaint. And if you don't know what the complaint actually is, basically the lawsuit is alleging that Facebook used its platform power to stifle its competitors, and it wants to unwind the acquisitions of WhatsApp and Instagram.
That's huge, right?
Yeah, so those are some rather large things that they want to do. And they definitely, I believe they have the all of the things that they need, basically, because Zuckerberg has messed up in some emails like we talked about last week. But yeah, this is really interesting. They're also facing new scrutiny over an alleged deal, with Google to actually coordinate ad networks too. So basically what this means is that the two were allegedly colluding for Facebook to win more of like the lotteries essentially for ads. Yeah, so obviously they both denied this allegation. But that's from the Texas Attorney General, I believe. And so like they haven't actually brought forth any of the evidence for that yet. So we'll have to wait and see what actual evidence there is of that. But yeah, this is really interesting. If you don't understand what a licensing deal would do, it would basically allow another platform like TikTok or like Instagram, even though they wouldn't have to because they're part of Facebook now, but it would allow them to actually like buy into the access of any of the kind of like tools that Facebook has, whether that's like their algorithms for ads, how they connect people, things like that you kind of have to build from the ground up. Like there are ways of doing that, but you basically have to build it from the ground up. And this would give you a head start essentially. Now that licensing I'm sure would be extremely expensive. And it's still really unclear whether that would actually like help competition. And PS Facebook would still be making money off of that as well. So yeah, it's really weird. But yeah, so that's what the licensing would actually do. The FTC basically said, nah, brah. And we're still gonna file this lawsuit against you. So that's kind of where we stand, but it is interesting. We do have more information on what Facebook has been trying to do to basically kind of put this to bed and to like avoid this, because they want to avoid this at all costs.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm interested to see what the actual evidence is and how that presents, which I'm guessing we will find out very soon what that is, unless, of course, there's some settlement that locks things up. And, of course, they wouldn't admit wrongdoing and stuff. But it's interesting that you see a coordination potentially, right? Allegedly a coordination between two huge tech powerhouses, kind of scratching each other's backs potentially to kind of maintain a dominance really in this sector. Is it surprising? No. But again, is it disappointing? Yeah. But I'll withhold judgment a little bit until we start to see some of the more concrete evidence. But man, yeah, this is just kind of a sad day for tech a little bit, right?
Yeah, and I really want to stress that Facebook and Google haven't been charged with anything. These are just lawsuits that have been filed, so they have not been found guilty of any of these things yet. That will still be a long process. So yes, a lot of stuff is coming out right now, negative for Facebook and Google now, but I want to stress that none of that evidence has been presented, and it has not gone to court yet. So yeah.
Good point. Well, speaking of things that continue to kind of come out, there's been a lot of talk about 5G, right? That's all we've heard about really for the past couple of years. Even headsets last year that like didn't support 5G had like 5G popping up, and people were scratching their heads and wondering like what was going on. And some were celebrating, even though you're not really getting 5G speeds. It's just saying it's 5G capable. But this interesting for reporting from The Verge, actually via PC Magazine, who actually went through in New York specifically and doing some testing with the 5G network on Verizon. And noting that due to the conflicting nature of the various like 5G technologies, right? So you have DSS, and then you kind of have like a regular layered running mode. A lot of the headsets are capable of kind of switching in between like the 4G LTE stuff and 5G. And so you have all these different antennas and all these different bands on your phone. What he was finding actually, the author of this, Sasha Sagan, that you actually might be losing speed by having your 5G turned on. So it turns out that in a lot of these areas, the super high like the ultra wideband 5G stuff isn't really accessible, right? Because it's easily blocked by things like Windows. No, I don't mean Microsoft. No. So interesting to me that something as simple as a window could be blocking this high speed stuff. So what happens is your phone panics, right? And it tries to flip over to all the different 5G bands, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, before eventually settling on LTE. In the meantime, if you're trying to download something or you're trying to enjoy a video, you're experiencing this lag as it's trying to flip through all these different bands. And what he's actually noting here is that just disabling 5G and running with LTE can prove to be significantly faster. And I know what you may be thinking, well, I don't live in New York and I'm not on Verizon. Interesting. So it turns out the same thing kind of happens a little bit on T-Mobile and even AT&T. Where the actual, since the rollout of 5G has been kind of slow and the reach of those antennas is not really at capacity and won't be, let's be honest, for a while. I don't care what commercials you've seen. And so really 4G LTE, sticking to that, can be significantly faster than 5G, even when you can get a 5G connection, right? So I think this is going to be this way for a while. I know a lot of people have been excited about 5G. We've talked a lot about it, and I thought, well, it'd be really cool to get that in the home. But man, I just don't think we're there yet. Are you holding your breath for this?
Not yet. The article definitely points out that Verizon in particular have really been putting a lot of resources into LTE until like very recently. So clearly, I think that tells you that they know that it's not where it needs to be yet. And I think that the technology still has a way to go. Like it can work in a lot of cases, but not all of the cases, I think. It's just like when you and I like do development work, right? It's like the 80-20 rule where you cover 80% of the cases and then there's still 20% unaccounted for, but the 80 is good enough to ship for now. I think that that's kind of what we're seeing right now, is that it works in enough use cases that it makes sense to launch it, to continue to start putting money into it. And then as more people and more technology starts becoming available or starts making use of that technology, it'll be more and more important for them to continue to start investing even more into that 5G network, and making that technology seamless for its users. So I think it still definitely has a way to go, like you said. I think that it'll get there, and I bet that it'll get there fairly quickly. But yeah, it definitely still has a way to go in my mind for me to start getting a little more like, ooh, yeah, I really want to start messing with this. So
makes sense. Probably wouldn't be a big deal if they hadn't, rolled the CEO, I think it was, maybe it was the CEO / president of Verizon out on stage when Apple introduced its kind of like 5G capabilities on its headset, to talk about how widespread and how amazing that was going to be. And it turns out, shocker, maybe not as cool as one would have thought. So on moving, I guess, away from disappointment and moving to something that's actually pretty exciting.
That's right. It's
the Steam Winter Sale, right?
That's right. It's the most exciting time of the year, or one of them, because there is a summer sale as well. But yes, the Steam Winter Sale is live with savings on thousands of games, as the title suggests. And it is true. They put literally everything on sale, it feels like, here. So some notable titles, Hades, which is up for Game of the Year, on Steam, is $5 off. So that's down to 20. So that's a great steal. I've seen a lot of plays of that. Matt, you and I love Halo's Master Chief Collection, and that's at 40% off at 24. So that's a steal of a game to pick up. But yeah, there are tons and tons of games on sale. If you're looking for something to pick up, I suggest going and looking at Steam. There are plenty of games on there that I'm sure that you don't have, that you haven't played, that you'll be getting a bargain for. So yeah, I mean, there are also some seasonal items that you can pick up using their points program that they just added, such as like avatars, stickers, and a seasonal profile. So you'll receive points for all of your purchases, and you can unlock goodies with those points as well. So
I was planning on turning in some points and trying to get the exclusive seasonal depression disorder.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, I just saw you texted me, and that's not a good. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so it turns out maybe I just need to read through the points program again. That's awkward, but there's a lot of stuff on here, and every time I think I've played a lot of games, like I think like, oh, you know what, I've really burnt through, I think, the gaming library. You open up Steam and it's, I mean, a drop, right? Like it's a drop in the bucket, and I feel like it's got to be surely that way for everybody. And I would mention, because you know how much I'm loving the VR stuff lately, Steam, right? Steam is powering a lot of great stuff. So not only for the Vive, but also for the Oculus, both the Rift and the Quest, you can plug those in. So if you're looking to pick up some new VR titles that you can play via Steam, now may be the time to do that. Funny, I just saw a little like news, like little sidebar news pieces about. We're still seeing stuff about the NVIDIA, like their new graphics card, for instance. I get a little like I don't know, worked up every time I see one of them, because I get excited for a hot minute, and then I remember I probably won't be able to get my hands on it. And then we're still seeing stuff about Cyberpunk, right? Like, yeah. So, and just that kind of massive, I guess, cluster that's been. So, don't want to necessarily go out without kind of a nod to those things. And I think in the first time in history, right, that PlayStation pulled a game and literally said, this game is not ready. Like, this is not a thing. So
and they're offering refunds for it too, I believe.
That's right. Yeah. And a lot. I think there's been a lot of refunds going in. So just a real interesting season that we're in.
Yes, it definitely is, particularly because everyone was so hyped for Cyberpunk, including ourselves. I luckily did not hop on that pre-order train for this reason specifically. I typically do not do that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting. We don't have an article specifically to talk about this, but yeah, I mean, I can't believe that PlayStation actually kind of did pull the trigger. One, because, like you said, it is the first time that they've ever done that. But man, like,
that's a big deal.
yeah, I mean, and I've heard some people say that, like, given another like year of development, maybe this would be in a place where it like kind of hits everything. But man, I've been looking at some side by side comparisons for this too, with like GTA 5, which is like so old at this point that I was like blown away. One, GTA 5 is an amazing game for its time and still is a great game. But man, does it look like the Cyberpunk looks so bad next to it. I was just like, wow, okay. Okay, that was a fail. It's okay. Yeah. Like, but it kind of feels like a little bit like it could redeem itself, but it's already lost all confidence from everyone, right? It's kind of like Fallout 74 or 76 that came out and was like horrendous when it started, but they've like really righted the ship there, and it's a good game. But I feel like if Cyberpunk has that redemption arc, it's going to be very similar to that, where they've already lost all confidence in the game, and that it's just not going to be able to keep the player base. So
that's a tough thing, but when you hit rock bottom, you got nowhere else to go but up.
That's right. That's right, baby.
I liken Sony pulling the plug on this to, like, if you hear about a friend of yours like not getting into the community college, you're like,
ooh,
they take everybody, bro.
Right.
So, well, hopefully they can get themselves put together. Anyway, just little tidbits that we had to mention. Sorry if anyone didn't get into community college. That was insensitive of me.
Yeah.
But you're probably used to it at this point. That's what you get when it's popping fresh out the oven.
That's right. Well, with that, that's all we have for today. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Tech Talk Tuesday. If you want to read up on any of the articles Matt and I discussed today, you can find them in the description below. And while you're there, how about you go ahead and give us a follow? That way you don't miss any future editions of Tech Talk Tuesday. We go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you have any questions for Matt or I on anything that you're seeing in the news or just technology related in general, you can hit us up on Twitter. Matt's handle is the Matt Ray, and mine is just Neil Tardy. We would love to answer any of your questions, either live or offline, whatever your preference is. And yeah, I think that's all we got. So we'll see you next Tuesday.